Hello everybody. Today we're working on this really beautiful, I love this, it's wisteria with lavender and then a magenta pink with a little bit of white in there. So I'm going to take you through the tutorial, and that's good. There's going to be things that are going to go wrong, and we're going to fix them. And then there are the things that, well, you'll have to wait and see. So before we get going, if you would, hit the subscribe button, thumbs up, ring the bell, and please leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think of all of my mistakes and fixes. Okay, with that out of the way, let's get started. I started out by giving my stone a base coat of the wisteria, and then once that was nice and dry, I drew a couple of guidelines and started at the 1/4 inch and then 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch, and so on. So here I have a 6.5 millimeter flat back crochet hook. You can check out my supply list down below. I've gathered enough paint on the bottom of my tool to create a soft little peak there, and I'm going to use that to guide myself towards the very center of my stone and lay my first dot. Switching over to a smaller tool, I'm going to start with the traditional north, south, and east and west pattern here and place my first 4 dots. After that, I'm going to place 1 in between each of those 4, and that'll give me a total of 8 dots for my first round. I'm coming in between each of the dots from the row below and placing another one right above and in between. And you can see that second one has a little something extra in that paint, so I'm going to try and get that out of there. While it's still wet, I'm going to scoop it out with one of my tools, and it's going to smear, but that's not really a big problem. I'm coming in with a very small paintbrush, and I'm scooping up as much of that paint as I can. Now I'm going to add a little bit of water to my brush and loosen up that paint, dilute it a little bit, and it'll be a lot easier for me to scoop up and clean away. And then being very careful to not disturb the rest of the paint and clean that out really well. And with a Q-tip, I'm going to make sure it's really dry before I go back and replace that dot. Because if I don't, it's just going to spread and I'm going to have a worse mess. So make sure it's nice and dry. Here I have a 4 millimeter flat back crochet hook. And I'm coming just inside that 1/2 inch guideline mark. I'm going to place 1 dot in between each of the sets from the row below. So you can see that I'm actually lining up with the first dot from round 1, following the north, south, east, and west guidelines, and just continuing that same pattern. I'm sizing up my tool to see if I'm going to be satisfied with the size, and I'm placing 1 dot in between, really right in the middle of each of those 8 dots from the row below. So 1 dot in between each of them, all the way around. Okay, continuing on with the white and the same tool, place 1 dot above the large dot from the row below and walk 2 dots down to the left and 2 dots down to the right. We're going to meet right at that little dot we placed in between each of the larger ones. Moving on to the lavender, which is a few shades darker than the wisteria, and I'm doing basically the same thing as I did before, only I'm only going to do it on the left side. So right above that white dot, I'm placing 1 dot and I'm walking 3 down to the left, and I'm going to meet up basically at the same spot. And I do that all the way around. Then once I've done that, I'm going to do the same exact thing right above the first lavender dot, and I'm going to walk a few more down to the left and meet up basically at the same intersection. I'm starting between the 2 lavender set of walk dots on the left, and I'm pulling down to the right. And then on the other side, I'm doing the exact same thing. So my 2 swooshes are going to meet in the middle. And then once I've done those 2, I'm going to add 1 more. I'm going to come right above that one on the right and pull down another white swoosh. Don't worry about them meeting at a specific spot because I'm going to add a dot just to kind of gather everything together. We're not done over here yet. This is a Martha Stewart paint that I picked up a while ago. I doubt very much if you'll be able to find it anywhere, but if you do, pick it up because it's great. But otherwise, a nice magenta or some kind of a, flashy pink will work really well here. I'm starting just above that second, first, however you want to look at it, a white swoosh on the right-hand side there. Now, the very first dot that I lay here is kind of dinky, and later on I'm going to fatten that up. So if you want to do that now, go right ahead. Okay, now continuing along the same area, I'm bringing in a small swoosh coming from the left towards the right. Now, if your swooshes are longer or shorter or fatter or off to a little bit, don't worry about it. If you look at mine, you can see that none of them are alike. Okay, well, we're up at the top here. Let's do a little detail work. So I have the lavender, and on those very first little dots around the center there, I'm adding an off-center top dot facing towards the center. So you can see, I don't know if you can tell actually just how small these are, but don't let that scare you. As long as you can see a little bit of white around the edges, you're good. So off-center top dots facing in with the lavender on round 1. And then round 2 is going to be fruit punch or whatever pink or whatever color you decide will be the same thing, off-center top dots facing inward on round 2. Okay, back up to the swooshes and with the lavender again. Nothing to worry about up here. Just pull down a small little swoosh right to the left of that white other swoosh. And yeah, we're done up there. Well, we're done with that for now. Okay, we're going to do a lot of quick highlighting up the top here with the white pearl or pearl white, whichever one you happen to have, the metallic. And I'm top dotting on the center. Fill that in as close and as neatly as you can. You really want to cover that top area well. And continue on for the rest of the white that's up there. The round 3 here, the larger dots, I think those were 4mm, but use whatever will fit and give you a good coverage. Do all of the walked dots, the swooshes, and when you're done with that, we're going to move on to the lavender. We're going to cover that with the metallic amethyst. And it's the same thing. All of the walked dot in the center, we have those little tiny off-center top dots. And then finally, for the lavender, the little swooshes. Now with the pink of my choice, which is the fruit punch up here, and the tool that is going to work best for me, I'm placing my off-center top dots on those large white dots. So going around, do that. And then on the sets of walked dots, you can see that I'm plumping up that first dot at the very top there. So go ahead and plump away to your heart's content. And then when you're done with that, right at the base of all those swooshes, you can see here, I'm just dropping one nice hefty little dot to pull everything together and anchor it. I'm at the 1 1/4 inch mark. And I want an even number of dots going around here. It has to be an even number if you want to follow the design. So I'm starting out with the basic north, south, east, and west pattern, and then going in between each of those 4 and continuing to do that until I have what I think is what I want. There's no specific number of dots that you have to have here. Again, just has to be an even number. So I have no idea how many dots I have here. Your dots can be any size you want. They can be as far apart as you want, just as long as it's an even number. Now with my fruit punch, and I have just a small tool. Whatever, again, it's going to depend on whatever size dot you have above. Use the tool that works best for you. And in between every other dot, place one of the pink dots. So you can see I have one, and then I'm skipping one, another one, skipping one. And that's why we needed an even number. And in between each of the fruit punch, I'm adding the amethyst, metallic amethyst. Now, there was something I should have mentioned before about the metallic paints, and that is to be careful because they can be very stringy, and you can drag, once you put the dot down, if you move your tool too quickly, you can drag the paint over and make yourself quite a mess. So just be very careful. Put your tool down straight and lift up straight. Move on to the inside of that ring, and above each of the pink or the fruit punch in my case, add one of the amethyst dots in between every other layer, as you can see. Now that my little white dots on that first collar are dry, I'm going to top all of them with the pearl white. And then if you have room right in the center, yeah, there we go. One little white off-center top dot on each of those. And one more off-center top dot in the white on each of the fruit punch from round 3. Moving back to the first collar on the outside, place a little white dot directly underneath the first white dot, and then we'll skip one with the lavender and the pink in between, and then place another white dot, and do that all the way around. We just needed to balance the outside like we did the inside. So I'm going through this quickly, but I want to show you how I take care of this. I did not like that. It was just too bulky, and I didn't see where I could go anywhere with it. So here comes the X-Acto knife. I scraped off the white, and then I was not happy with the purple, the lavender either, so scraped that off. 400 grit sandpaper, got it nice and smooth, and then just gave it another coat of that same wisteria. And it looks pretty good. Now you can see I have paint up around the top there on those other dots. Just the damp Q-tip, go around nice and gently, and give it a, you might have to go back and forth a few times. Of course, you want to make sure that that paint is dry before you do this. The original dots, make sure those are dry. And you can go around with the damp Q-tip and clean them up. I did have to go around a couple of times because once that area starts to dry, it has a little bit of a haze on it. So just be very cognizant of that, and you'll be all set. After replacing my chalk marks, I came back again with the lavender. This time I have a much smaller tool, and I'm putting these dots a little bit closer together. Now, truth be told, at the beginning, I was going for an even number of dots, and you'll see in a few minutes that I had something in mind that was going to require an even number of dots, or so I thought. Okay, so I'm happy with those lavender dots. I'm happy with the spacing. I'm happy with the amount of them and everything. So I give it a go. I'm going to place the off-center white top dot facing upward. I have the stone upside down, and I'm doing that on every other lavender dot all the way around. This is looking much better than it did before, so let's continue by adding a white dot on top of each of the remaining lavender dots. Okay, so just above that white dot that I just placed there, I actually turned my stone upside down for comfort. But if I had it in the correct position, I would be above the white dot, and then I would be pulling a swoosh to the left over the other lavender dot coming up in between. So in my head, everything's cool, and I'm just going to do in every other pattern. But somewhere I went wrong, or my math was off, or what, I don't know. But ended up just going ahead and filling in all of them. I was done with scraping things off and repainting them with the white, and starting just above and to the right of the fruit punch swoosh, I'm walking a series of dots over. So I'm starting right there at the beginning of the swoosh and then carrying over at the end. And of course, one of the golden rules is always to watch the video to the very end before you attempt replicating pretty much anything. Now I've decided that I'm really not too crazy about those lavender with the off-center top dots. So I'm coming in with this amethyst metallic paint, and I'm going directly over all of them. Personally, I like this better, but if you like the little white off-center top dots on the every other one, then put this metallic on the solid lavender and put the white pearl on the other. By adding a little finishing dot at the end of those swooshes, we're evening them out, so the ones that were kind of short or can be elongated a little bit, and the ones that are a little too long can be kind of cut at the end. So just nice little anchoring dots right at the very tip. using a small tool, something that'll fit in there quite nicely. And I have the white acrylic here. I'm going right along the line that we had drawn previously, and that's going in between each of the small lavender dots. For right now, the last thing to do down here is just to chop off all of the white acrylic with the pearl white metallic. So that's what I'm doing, all of the walk dots and the remaining dots on the 2 bottom rows. Okay, so here is where I should have stopped. But I went ahead with this purple glitter paint and topped off all of my metallic amethyst. And, at first it looked okay. And then as it dried and I looked at it, I think it was like the next day I looked at it, and that stuff was just sitting right on top, and it looked awful. It looked absolutely horrible. So I grabbed my X-Acto knife and I tried popping just the glitter paint off the top. And a lot of times that works just fine. It's like a sticky and it'll just pop right off. Well, not this time. My knife started catching in the other pieces, the whites and the white hologram. And I was just so totally frustrated. I just was like, I just wanted to throw it away. But I'm stubborn and I kept at it. I kept picking and picking and picking until I got down to actually part of the bare stone in certain places, and still didn't give up. So I took out my little teeny tiny paintbrush and some more of that wisteria paint and tried to clean that in. But it was just too much. And then I couldn't remember what I had actually done so that I could replicate it. So I was done. I was done. Into the bucket of water it went. Paint will peel off and we'll start something new. But wait, there's more. As I said before, I don't know when to quit. I'm not a quitter. I don't give up. And I started again. This time I didn't use the glitter paint. And this is what it looks like now. Please let me know what you think. Leave your comments and questions down below. And thank you for watching. And until next time, take care, be good. Bye-bye.